This is the lecture for Module 12, Preparing, Organizing, and Outlining Effective Presentations. 4 key factors separate good speakers from great speakers. And no matter who you are or how many presentations you've delivered, these factors still apply. We can think of them as 4 steps in the public speaking process: prepare, practice, present, and post-presentation assessment. The first step is the preparation step. And there are 6 elements in this preparation process. They include audience analysis, situational analysis, selection of an appropriate communication channel, identification of one's specific purpose, organization, and outlining. Audience analysis answers the question, to whom will this speech be delivered? Listeners judge speakers on the basis of what they already know or believe. Therefore, speakers must understand and tap into their specific audience's existing knowledge and belief systems. A situational analysis involves examination of the speaking context. The first thing you need to know is how many people will there be in your audience. In general, the larger the audience, the more formal one's presentation should be. And then there's the matter of the physical setting. It's helpful to know what the physical layout of the room is. Is it a large room or a small room? Are there padded seats or hard benches? Will people be sitting around a conference table or in auditorium-style seating? Where are the visual aids and screens located? And are there other physical features that you should take into consideration? For example, windows that might provide a distracting view of the outside. 2 additional factors that should be considered are the time of day in which you'll be delivering your speech, which will have a great deal to do with whether or not people are able to completely focus on what you have to say, and also the temperature of the room that you'll be speaking in. Now, after you've identified who the audience is and given some thought to the situation that you'll be speaking in, it's time to identify your general purpose. The general purpose answers the question, why am I delivering this speech? There are 4 general types of speeches: informative or demonstration speeches, persuasive speeches, speeches that are delivered for entertainment purposes, and speeches that are given to commemorate or honor a person or a particular action. And the reason it's important to start by identifying the general purpose is that different types of presentations call for very different types of organizational patterns. Once you've decided on your general purpose, you can move on to identify your specific purpose. The specific purpose statement answers the question, what is the main purpose, idea, or theme of my presentation? In other words, what do I want my audience to know, believe, or do as a result of my speech? The specific purpose statement should be written out in a single sentence, and it should contain just one primary idea. This will help you to keep your intended destination in mind and enable you to evaluate whether or not you were successful later on. Once you've decided on a specific purpose, you can move on to writing your thesis statement. Now here what you're thinking about is exactly how you plan to accomplish that specific purpose. You should evaluate the supporting material that's available to you. And you should also assess which ideas and support will be likely to be the most credible to the audience that you've already identified. You should select 3 to 5 key points that you will use to accomplish that specific purpose that you identified in the last step. And finally, you can combine that specific purpose statement that you've already written with those 3 to 5 key ideas to create a single sentence thesis for your speech. Now, once we have a good understanding of our purpose, the audience, and the speaking situation, it is finally time to actually begin writing the organizational outline. Why do we put the information in an organizational outline rather than writing it out in paragraphs in a manuscript style? Well, an outline can help us to visualize the progress that we're making as we walk through the speech when it's time to deliver it. We can look at the outline format to see, for example, how much support we've provided for each point, and we can understand more clearly what the points are that we're trying to make and the order in which they're presented. Organized presentations, in the end, are much easier for a speaker to present, and they're also easier for audience members to follow and remember, so you should not skip this important step. Now, the two most common types of presentations in business settings are the informative presentation and the persuasive presentation. So I'm going to talk to you about informative presentations right now. And this is about the simplest type of presentation to make, because all you do is talk about the information that you want to share with your audience, and you put that in a sandwich in between an introduction and a conclusion. The body of the speech needs to be organized, however, in a way that is sort of easy for the audience members to follow. Remember, they don't get to see your script, and so it can be tricky for somebody to follow what's being said unless it is organized in a way that sort of makes sense. So you have a number of pattern options. You can, for example, present a topical speech in which you talk about the aspects or elements in a particular idea or a particular product. You can present your information in a chronological pattern, which is just in order of when things occur in time. Chronological patterns can go forward or backward. They can start at any point and they can stop at any point. You can also present your information in a spatial pattern. For example, if I wanted to talk about areas where my company was going to be expanding, I might organize the information by talking about places that we will be going into in Asia, places will be expanding in Europe, and places will be expanding in the Middle East. And if I were to do that, I would talk about all the Asia locations, then I would talk about all the European locations, and finally I'd end up in the Middle East. Although you could do that in any order you wanted based on where you wanted your starting point to be. You can also present informative presentations using cause-effect patterns, problem-solution patterns, pro-con patterns, and comparing and contrasting patterns. Regardless of what pattern you choose, you should support the information in the body of your speech. And to do so, you need to collect examples, facts, statistics, analogies, and peer or expert testimony to reinforce the points that you're trying to make. And once you've finished writing the body of your speech, it'll be time to go back and pick up that introduction and wrap everything up with a conclusion. You should write these two pieces last after you know what exactly you plan to talk about. Remember that the introduction should include 4 crucial elements. The first is something that will capture the audience's attention. You can capture attention with a question, a startling statement, a quotation, a funny story, anything that draws people to begin to think about your topic and to perhaps think about it in a new way. The second element in the introduction is your credibility step, and here you're simply letting the audience know why they should listen to you. What is it about you that makes you uniquely qualified to talk about this particular element? The third element in an introduction is the relevance step. This is often skipped by speechwriters because they think that it should be self-evident to the audience why a topic is relevant to them, but that's not always the case. So be sure that you take the time to let the audience know why you're there presenting the information to them today. And finally, at the end of your introduction, you should preview each of the main points that you plan to make during your speech. This provides the audience with a roadmap that they can follow as you continue to speak. After you've written the introduction, you can wrap everything up with a conclusion. The conclusion has 2 primary elements. The first is a review of what the main points of the speech were. This helps the audience remember and kind of finalize the ideas that you presented. And then finally, you should end with some sort of inspirational comment or point that will kind of wrap everything up, and I like to say tie it up with a bow, something that will inspire the audience members to continue to think about your topic long after you finish speaking. Now, once again, everything that you've written up until this point should be placed in a single document that you can call a content or complete sentence outline. This content outline contains everything that you plan to say, written out in complete sentences and organized in outline form so that you can see the organization of the points that you're going to make. And once you have that content outline, it's a simple matter to make a copy, cut out excessive amounts of words so that when it's time to deliver the speech, you can do so in an extemporaneous way where it sounds like you're talking to us and not simply reading to us. This is what I do when I prepare lectures for class. I write everything out, and then when it's time to deliver the speech, I look at a brief outline and it helps me remember the points. I'm looking forward to hearing your first speeches this next week.